I went to a talk in the local town yesterday about growing perennial vegetables. It was awesome. It makes so much sense to me, the idea of just growing something that produces year after year after year. I mean, when you're growing an annual, say if you're growing, I don't know, tomatoes or something, you put all this care and attention into it, and then at the end of the growing season, it dies, and you start all over again. So growing some things that just stay in the garden, you don't have to do anything to, you just get a lot of sort of return on your invested time, which is great. I mean, there's obvious things like, you know, asparagus that just keep producing, but there were loads of things at this talk that I'd not grown and didn't know much about. So this is choko. I think that's what people call it here, although I think the correct term for it is chayote. So that's a South American plant. There's, you know, that you probably already know, but I've not grown it before, Jerusalem artichokes. So you just pick these off and they'll grow. I'm not going to plant them here though, because they spread, so I'll grow that in a bucket. I'm planting these just under the soil, 4 centimetres down, so 1.5 inches. It's winter now, or almost winter, and I think the harvest should be in autumn. Let's see how these go. We'll just give them a bit of water. They take a bit of sun apparently, so I'll put them in a sunny spot, keep on top of the watering, and yeah, hopefully we'll have artichokes. This is something I'm massively excited about because I only found out about the plant yesterday. So I don't know if you know this stuff, but this is called Yacon, which comes from South America. It looks a lot like a potato, so it's a large sort of tuber thing that grows under the ground, but it tastes nothing like potato. It's really sweet. You peel it and it's kind of like eating maybe like a pear, or more like one of those Nashi pears if you've had one of those. And it's great. So it's a perennial, which is another reason I like it. So I'm going to give this a crack. I mean, as you can see, all this stuff's just going to die off. So I think I'll just cut it there and put that much in the ground, and hopefully that will take. I got this sorrel from a friend's garden yesterday. I really like sorrel, that kind of lemony taste, nice, and I like the fact you don't have to plant it every year. It's a perennial, you just leave it in and it keeps growing like a weed. I'm just removing all of this dead stuff though. I tend to do that with all plants just because that's not going to do any good to the plant. It's not going to photosynthesize, and more importantly, it kind of attracts bugs and snails and slugs and stuff like that. And they prefer to eat these sorts of leaves than fresh ones. So if I can get rid of that, it just means you get less slugs in the garden. Right, they're looking a bit sparse now, but they'll come back. They've got loads of roots. That's one I planted not that long ago. And that was in pretty bad shape when it went in, and it's already come back. So yeah, give that a few weeks in the ground and it will be looking good. The reason I'm filming from bed in the dark is I wanted to show you my morning routine, because today everything changes. So this is our very basic kitchen setup that we've had now for the past almost a year. It's alright, I mean, when the weather's okay, cooking outside with the woods and the sound of the birds is nice. But we're about to come into winter, and when the weather is not so nice and it gets a bit windy, the charm of cooking outside is not quite so good. So this morning, for the first time, I'm going to make the coffee inside. Just before I go inside, being outside does have its advantage though, doesn't it? Look at that, sun just rising over the horizon. So beautiful. Check it out. Indoor cooker. I was just working out, actually, we've been on the land living up here in the bus for 6 months now, and we've been cooking outside all of that time. I mean, you know, this morning would be perfectly nice to make a coffee outside, but last night it was dark. I left it a bit late to start cooking, didn't really feel like it, and I cooked inside for the first time on that new stove, and it was so nice. You know, I had the lights on in here, I had the stove on. It was really, really warm. It was too hot actually, but anyway, it's funny. You sort of, you know, and this is just stuff that I've always had, that everyone has really in the developed world. You know, a warm, dry place where you can cook inside. But when you go without it for a while, it becomes such a luxury, and yeah, it was really, really enjoyable. I think, you know, that's one of the good things about living like this and the whole off-grid lifestyle, is that, you know, the idea of hedonic adaptation, whereby if you get something, you buy something, or something happens to you that's good, you feel good about it for a certain amount of time, and then after a while it just becomes normal and mundane. Like buying a new car, it's really exciting for X number of months, and then after a while it's just your car. And that's the case with everything, and I think the more you have, therefore the harder it is to get that buzz of having the new thing. You're always chasing the next thing, and it gets harder and harder. But kind of one of the charms of the, you know, living a simple life, I suppose, or anything where you're living in sort of quite in a quite a basic way, is that you've just got a long runway. There's just a lot of things that you can gradually add to your life to make it very slightly better. And I suppose you know, I'll adapt to this, of course. You know, that I'm not going to always think, oh, how good to have a cooker inside. It will, you know, I'm sure after a month it will just become normal, and then there's no joy from it anymore. But starting at that very low base point means that life can keep going with these small little incremental changes, and your life can keep getting better. And they're kind of easy gains, you know.